Good evening and welcome to episode 2 of the Pun-Dits Panel, the chaps that put pun into pundit. Yeah, welcome. Yes, back by popular demand after last week's episode. Really good interaction from the viewers. So we hope you enjoyed it and we hope you enjoy it tonight. We've got another packed programme for you with our special guests as well. We'll be discussing all things cricket, league cricket locally, England's superb win in Sri Lanka, some stats, some interesting stats, some weird stats, and also umpiring, a bit more about sledging, etc. So without further ado, I'll introduce my first co-presenter as normal, my partner in crime, and that, of course, is Kdog. Good evening.
Hello. I'm really worried about saying anything tonight because I think that noise is going to come again.
What noise? This one? Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually urge people, if they haven't watched last week's, to go back and look at about 50 minutes in to Kieran's face when he gets buzzed out. It's a certain picture, I have to say. So please do that. We're getting more people watching, Kieran, which is good as we go into our second episode. Thoroughly enjoyed last week's. Hopefully the audience did too. So I'm going to introduce again our third person on the Pundits panel. It's a welcome back to Megas. Good evening.
Good evening, everybody. How are we?
Yeah, good. We've renamed you Stato because we think you've now got all the stats and all the information going back to yesteryear for cricket. So it's good to have you on board, Megas. So thanks again.
Our league handbook from 1983, no less. Got them all. So got all the stats you need.
Me and you were only 40 then, Megas, weren't we? We were only 40 then, yeah. So, but I have to say, we have another special guest with us tonight. So, yeah, it's a first. We're going to have 4 people on the screen. So, a welcome to the best umpire in Oxfordshire. Is it Don Brooks? Is it John Finch?
Pete Tomlin.
Dave Billingsley.
Pete Tomlin? Is it Kieran Bushnell? No, it's Ian Royal. Hello, Ian. How are you?
Good evening. Good evening, Woodsy, everybody. Yeah, best umpire Oxfordshire. Yeah, there's a few people who disagree with that, I think. Yeah.
I was trying to build you up, Ian.
Yeah, all right.
That's good. Nice to have you on board.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me. Thank you.
Hope you enjoy the next hour or so. Yeah, we're probably for about an hour, guys. We'll annoy you for about that long. Don't forget, of course, if there's any phrase that any of our guest presenters tonight should say, I might be going and freezing them out of that topic. If I get bored at any point, and of course, if we go on too long, which is very possible with it, as certainly us 3, not included Ian in that, but that might get buzzed in as well. So I think we'll crack on straight away. And I think we're going to talk about initially local leagues. And we're talking especially the recent amalgamation merger, joining forces of the OCA and the Cherwell League. And for me, I thought it was something that, could have been done a few years previous, actually. So I'm really pleased that it has been done now. It's been done in the right way, I think, professionally. And I think when teams will look back, I think that they've been put in some decent leagues with less travelling in divisions that work for them. So my first question then, and I'll go to Kieran first. Kieran, your views on the recent amalgamation?
Wow, as somebody who is a very, very poor cricketer and a pretty poor umpire as well, but somebody that has great start to the day, isn't it?
Straight over to Megas.
You Coffin.
Megas, what's your thoughts?
Well, as you know, I've got mixed views of it. I'm for it in lots of ways. I'm completely against regional cricket. That's nonsense as far as I'm concerned. It's just not for me, and our club as well. But it is for the majority. The vast majority of people want regional cricket in the lower echelons of the league, which is absolutely fine. I personally, I don't want to play it near grounds. I want to play it in nice grounds. I really do. If it means travelling an hour to Challow and Childry or Long Marston, that's what I personally would like. But that's not the view of, I don't know, 98% of the people in the league. So, we at Banbury will go with that and absolutely embrace it. And it's actually not as, the leagues are actually not as regional as we thought they were going to be, Darryl, at the top end. I think they're more so from sort of 7, 8 downwards, which is good. And I think the top 3 divisions are as they were, which is right. It's going to be some interesting competition, some different grounds to play at, and that should be interesting times. Just hope we can get on the field.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest point. I'm going to bring Ian in at this point. Ian, you were heavily involved in the talks with the Chilwell from the OCA perspective, and especially with David Warner from the Chilwell. Can you just give us an indication of when that started and how the ball was started to roll, so to speak?
Timescale, you got me there. I don't know about that, but it started off with an approach from the Chilwell League about joining together. It was certainly initiated by the Chilwell for the very reason that Megas doesn't like it, basically, which was trying to get regional cricket low down. That was the selling point that they came to us with. We want to play regional cricket. Now, the OCA had tried that in their bottom division and it hadn't worked for the simple reason just weren't enough clubs to do it. The concentration of clubs in the area you need to do that sort of thing. Whereas now, more clubs, it's easier to regionalise it in the lower bits because there's more clubs to choose from. Basically, you can split it a lot more easy, and that hopefully that will work. And as I said, the feedback from the player surveys and stuff was that the younger players don't want to be travelling so far. I think they want to get home and get out again. Basically, what it boils down to. So hopefully that'll give them the chance to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it sort of, for me, it seemed that, OCA had their view and voted, and so did the Chilwell, and it was a high percentage that wanted the combination of the leagues, wasn't it? Which was good to see. Was there loads and loads of meetings with everybody concerned?
In the sort of planning little group that got together, yeah, quite a lot. It took a fair bit of knocking together and working out what would work and what wouldn't. So obviously, the sticking points we knew from the previous attempt at it, and it was merely working around those, neutral umpires in all games and stuff like that. Which we came to a reasonable compromise. We'll just have to see how that works when it all kicks off in the spring.
Yeah, I sort of pick you up on a point there about the umpires. Of course, OCA had club umpires working down all the divisions, didn't they?
Yeah.
Do you think that's something that will transform over to the new league? Is it going?
It's an aspiration, shall we say? I think from the umpires side of the umpires panel. The umpires committee on the Chilwell side. It's an aspiration. It's not something that's going to happen overnight by any means. It'll take a little bit of time, not only in terms of finding the people, but getting them trained up as well, so they know what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Kieran, I'm going to let you come in here. Have you got a question you'd like to ask Ian of that? Because I'm sure you have.
I've kind of lost the thread from being buzzed out straight away. I'm just, I mean, there's a lot of people already on the group, on the channel, just sort of saying they're a big fan of it. And I think you've already sort of asked the question about, one of the big sticking points previously was umpiring. I think, Wesley's just asked or mentioned that. I think that where possible, that the leagues have tried to sort of find that happy balance, haven't they, Ian, between those clubs at the top level that really want to play, the most competitive cricket they can, irrespective of distance, and then the if you like, the more sort of recreational clubs, the proper village clubs that want to play competitive cricket, but in that really sort of friendly, relaxed environment down in the lower division. And I think it's just finding that happy medium, isn't it? Which is I think is what's led to this amalgamation.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, there's been several iterations of that sort of pyramid structure, and where it started splitting into sort of vaguely region, that moved up and down quite a bit before they hit on where we've actually gone for. So I think it's top 3, is it? And it splits at 4. Can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it. Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, the thinking was that in the previous seasons, the top OCA club, if they wanted to, could apply to join the Churl, and they usually got put in at about Division 4 or 5, and seemed to sort of be about there. You know, some went up, some went down, but it seemed about the right place to go. So that seemed to be the right sort of place to put the split. Basically, hopefully,
I think the league of,
time will tell. Yeah,
you're right, Ian. But the league have pitched the OCA teams into the right leagues. There's no question about that. I think the top division are in Div 4, in the split of Div 4, which is absolutely right. And as you say, the better ones will work their way up the leagues if they're good enough to. And the split's good.
That's right.
And ironically, strangely, I think the team's chatting to Daryl about this the other day. What clubs will really benefit from this are clubs with lots of teams, with multi-teams, clubs with 3rd and 4th teams, because all of a sudden their 3rd and 4th teams in the old Cherwell League setup would have been playing 3rd and 4th teams themselves. Now they're playing, for example, our 4th team are in Division 6. They're only playing 1st and 2nd teams. So those big clubs, lower sides, are going to be playing some really good cricket against some sides that are going to be above their pay grade probably. So that's a great thing for the clubs with lots of teams. Really good experience for their younger players and some old blokes like me that can just help the young kids along, playing really meaningful cricket down there. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, and I think if there's where we've put teams, there's bound to be some errors in that. Bound to be trying to split it up. There's going to get some teams are going to be in a division that's too good for them, or they're too good for it. One of the two. But I think they're going for a 3 up, 3 down, lower down to start with as well, to try and even out as quick as possible. So there's it won't all be right first time. Some team somewhere is going to find themselves not having a great season, but I'm afraid the first season that's
Ian, it's going to
happen.
take 2 or 3 years, isn't it, for everybody to filter out and teams to get to their level. Probably 2 years with 3 up, 3 down. Yeah. And that makes every game in the season meaning something, I think, really.
Exactly. That's right. It makes the season longer, doesn't it? It's certainly, as far as meaningful games go. Yeah.
And Ian, the big thing about this this amalgamation, I don't call it a merger. It's more a sort of joining of the leagues, really. But it's, I mean, both leagues, both the OCA and the Cherwell, they're pretty regional leagues anyway, aren't they? Because we're not just talking Oxfordshire. You know, I know that the OCA goes to the borders of Gloucester, or went to the borders of Gloucestershire up to Northants, across to Berkshire and Buckinghamshire, and the Cherwell League obviously goes across in sort of West Beds and such like. So it's a big area to manage, and I think, is it fair to say that there's 2 points I'm going to make here? I hope Daryl doesn't buzz me out because they're serious points. Firstly, it's a big league to manage, but that you throw me now. That it encourages clubs that are bringing some of their youngsters through. I think in the past, this is a big thing to say. In the past, a lot of clubs have maybe lost their talented young cricketers a little bit sooner than they might. Now, obviously, if they want to go on to play at the top level, then they need to challenge themselves at the top level of the league. But this might encourage some of the younger players to stay with their local clubs for a little bit longer, and that can only be sort of good for the perseverance of cricket as a whole, I think.
Yeah, I think you're quite right. It's you've got a chance if you've got a couple of 3 good youngsters, they've got a chance to take their team up, haven't they? And then there'll be a ceiling for that somewhere along the line. They'll reach it, and if those players are better still, then yes, they move on. That's always been the way, always will be. But as I say, it gives you a chance to stick around with your mates who maybe not as good a cricketer as you for a bit longer.
I think the opposite to what you've just said, Doug, if I'm absolutely honest about it. I don't think it's a good. I think if you're a really good young player and you're in a Division 6 team and you're a budding county player, you should be looking to play at that top echelon. I think what's more likely to happen is older players that have had a reasonable standard of cricket would more consider dropping back down to their local club. Perhaps now they're in the same league. I think there's more of that. And I think the really good young player is still going to take his or her chance in the top division, looking to play home counties cricket. That's not going to ever change. That's
yeah, this is going to get quite heated. You're misunderstanding me, Meg, as I'm not talking about players 14, 15, 16. I'm talking about the really young players that have maybe only just started at their clubs. You know, the 10s, 11s, 12s that will then move into the 13s. I'm talking that age. I'm not talking about the really talented 15, 16-year-olds. If a really talented 16-year-old has an aspiration to play minor county or national counties as it now is, or first class cricket, then of course they need to challenge themselves at the highest level. But I'm talking about the young newcomers to cricket, whereas in the past, I mean, there's lots and lots of clubs around all the 5 counties that have got brilliant youth setups. And my issue was always that in the past that they were all filtered to certain clubs, and then it becomes very, very sort of watered down, if you like. And if there's more clubs with really good youth setups and we can develop these really young kids, if they become or have a talent, an obvious talent, I think that's fair that if they want to move on, they need to consider moving to a club where they can.
But they're not moving at 11, though, Kim. Kids are not moving at 11 or 12. It doesn't matter what club.
Well, they do.
Do they?
No, they do. And I've seen that. 11, 12, 13, you know, they may not move because they necessarily want to move. They may move because a parent or somebody wants them to move to a perceived bigger club. And I think at that age, it's too young. And I just think that, certainly, yeah, Wesley's agreed with me. That's nice that somebody's agreed with me for once. I was disagreeing with Ross last week. I just think that you can move on too soon. And I'm not at any point saying that you shouldn't move on to better your game. And if you want to play at that level, of course you need to. But there needs to be a time and a place for that. And you don't want everybody, all and sundry, going off to 2 or 3 clubs and then it getting watered down. And then these kids potentially not even getting a game because there's too many at the club. I know from my own personal experience, my local club, they've had a few more issues. I mean, obviously last year COVID got in the way. They've had a few more issues getting the youth teams out because there are so many. And I just think that the younger ones need to sort of, you know, stay where they are, and this might encourage them to do that. And then, of course, if they're exceptional, they, of course, can move on. Thank you, Wesley. Even a broken clock tells the time twice right a day. Thank you. That's very kind. Anyway, that's my 2 penneth, and he didn't buzz me out there, so that's good.
Well, you know, it's an interesting debate, and you know, you can sit on the fence a little bit. I mean, my own personal experiences of leaving a club that was playing in the Trinity League to go into the Cherwell League back in the day, I left too late. I believe that I should have been playing or tried to have played a higher standard of cricket a lot earlier than I did. And some people can leave it a little bit too late. Some people go too soon. You know, so there is a fine line between the two, I think. But I think I'm going to come in on myself there because I think I want to move on to our next topic. And thanks, Ian, for being totally with the league stuff there. That was really good. So thank you for that. And let's go on to what was a brilliant victory, I think, from England in the Sri Lankan second Test match. My thoughts, England played particularly well on day 4. But yeah, let's go Megas first of all this time. What was your thoughts on that Test match as a whole?
Oh, it was a really weird one again. It was a sort of reverse of the first Test in that Sri Lanka batted terribly second dig. Our spinners were really ordinary when the pitch was flat, and they bowled brilliantly when it turned second time around. And we just stuck in there. We were in trouble lots of times in the game. We got a good score. We were parity, weren't we, after the first innings? And then they just, well, I don't know what on earth they were doing yesterday, Sri Lanka. That was an absolutely shocking performance with the bat. I think we bowled well, but it's hard to say. They played some terrible strokes. So, but good behaviour. We've won 6 games on the trot in Sri Lanka. Can you believe that? 3-0 last series, 2 this one, and we won the last one of the series before the last one. I mean, that's an astonishing run of results in their conditions. it's really hard to gauge where we're at. Are our spinners going to be good enough in India? They've got lots of wicket. I don't know. The Indian batters are a massive cut above, aren't they? But yeah, good, great result. And for me, Joe Root's best 2 innings in an England shirt. Period.
Yeah. I think
he's concentrated in. He looks a new man, doesn't he? And they're his best 2 innings for me, and it bodes well for the future. That really does.
Yeah, I think Kieran alluded to the fact last week that he's playing with a smile on his face. He was absolutely cooked, wasn't he, at the end of that day of his 186 when he eventually got out. He was struggling to get back into the crease. He was so tired. Good. I mean, I haven't done the stat, which we'll come on to stats, but the percentage of runs he scored of England's runs would be quite high. So that might be something that causes a little bit of concern. What's your thoughts there, Ian?
Yeah, I think so. All right, there's a lot of youngsters sort of making their way in that team, the 2 openers and Lawrence just starting out. So I suppose you've got to cut them a bit of slack on that. Different conditions for them, but that is a bit of a worry going to India, you must admit. Yeah. The number of runs that Root got compared to everybody else.
Yeah, for
How
sure.
disappointed when Root was really unluckily out the last ball of the 3rd day. And he was absolutely desperate that he got out in such that all the way off. The camera followed him all the way off, and he was lower than a snake's whatever, wasn't he? He really was, and that's good. He really meant. Not it means something every time playing for England, of course it does, but you could just see it. He's something different about the guy, and that's got to bode well for everything, I think.
I totally agree. Little question for you. Hands up. First hands up to answer this question. Last person to get 150 back-to-back 150s in an England shirt was?
Pass.
Marcus Trescothick. There you go. I'll move quickly on. I mean, interestingly, again, I'll talk about stats. 10 seaming wickets in the first innings, 10 spin in the second. But what a performance by Jimmy Anderson in that first innings. 30 overs odd, 6 for 40. That is a tremendous effort in, not seamer-friendly conditions. Your thoughts on Jimmy Anderson, guys? I'll go to Kieran first on this one.
What more can you say about the guy? I mean, he's 38 years old and he's still one of the best bowlers in the world, and bowling in unfriendly conditions such as the subcontinent. He's actually got a really good record in Sri Lanka, actually. If you look, of all the subcontinent, I mean, obviously they haven't toured Pakistan, but Anderson has got a fantastic record in Sri Lanka. I think that, he seems to be getting better with age. He's getting fitter. He's still hungry. He still wants it. And all these people that talk about, can you play Broad and Anderson together? I still say, of course you can. If they're the best 2 bowlers at the moment, you do so. And I just want to very quickly, if you don't buzz me out, which I'm always really wary about now, is they were discussing on Sky about the team for the first test in India, which starts next Friday. They're talking about not putting out the strongest 11. Johnny Bairstow is going home. Now, I know there's issues around the bubble and mental health issues and such like, but it's a bit of a concern to me that for what is one of the pinnacle test series, and I class India, South Africa and Australia as the 3 pinnacle test series, to not go into a series with your absolute strongest side. I'm quite disappointed with that, and I do appreciate there needs to be some balance in terms of mental health issues and such like, but it's just a little bit of a concern for me. Having said that, you were talking about Joe Root being the leading run scorer by a country mile. We didn't have Rory Burns, Ollie Pope, Ben Stokes in the side, and they'll all be back for the India series. And so I'm very unusual for me to be so positive, I know, but I'm not overly concerned about our batting. I would be a little bit concerned about our spinners. Although, as I said last week, and I stick by this, and I think I've kind of, not proven because I'm very much not a pundit, but I would say that we stick with them. Jack Leach is a good spinner. Don Bess is very young. Yeah, people can say get a shot of him and he's not good enough, but they got a shot of Graham Swan when he was in his mid-20s and didn't bring him back until he was 30-odd, and then he became our best spinner ever. I think sometimes you just need to develop somebody and stick with somebody. And if he's the best that we've got, they need to develop him. Be that, in the subcontinent, what better place to develop a spinner? And I know that it's Test cricket, but it's what we've got, isn't it? That's my opinions. And thank you for not buzzing me out.
Yeah, you did well there. Megas, I'll come to you. I'll talk a little bit about Don Bess and his action. I think there is some work to do on his action. I feel he's coming a little bit over the top of his head and making it more difficult for him to turn the ball. He's not quite going towards the target. But your views on our spin twins?
I think, as I said, it's really difficult to gauge. They got wickets in the 2 innings where Sri Lanka batted as poorly as any of us have seen a Test side bat in living memory, even by some of our standards. They're the best 2 bowlers we've got, the best 2 spin bowlers, without a shadow of a doubt. We're going to end up in India on flat wickets. There's no way they're going to produce turners. Because if they produce turners, even a moderate spinner's got a chance of bowling somebody else. So we're going to be on flat wickets. They'll bat their batters to outbat ours. Their spinners are probably better than ours, although Jadeja's going to be out, isn't he? He's broken his thumb, so he's out of their team. So that evens things up a little bit. But I think Best is a good package. He's a good fielder. Could be a genuine Test 8, really good 9, 8 maybe in time. And I think they like that because our batting is a little bit thin, or it was in this Test, in my opinion. So they like that. Is there a place for Moeen maybe? 3 spinners? That's not out of the question. Kieran's shaking his head. But with Stokes playing as another seamer, maybe there's a chance to get another one in. I don't know. But you're right, Darryl. There's work to do. But as Ian said earlier, particularly Best is a young spinner. And Leach has hardly played for 18 months. He's been ill. He's had injury. We've got to cut them some slack. And I think they did pretty well, all in all.
Yeah, you'd say that, wouldn't you? I mean, the figures speak for themselves. Ian, have you got anything there to add about the?
Not particularly. You've got to support Don Bess and Jack Leach. Both come through the minor counties system as well. Is to be said for it, I suppose.
Yeah,
both come up through there. So good guys. I'm not wishing to brag, but I've umpired them both. So there you go.
Oh.
Yeah, I know that's coming now.
Firing them both. Sorry, I got to move on from that. That's terrible. Yeah, I mean, I want to sort of mention Sibley because Sibley, batted 144 deliveries in that second innings for his 50, and he, in difficult conditions, so he did contribute to that win, but they really didn't set a field for him, did they? What was going on there?
Well, you're absolutely right. They really didn't, and they just let him have a single virtually whenever he wanted one. And the guys, he scored 5 runs, 6 runs in 3 innings, and they absolutely let Dom off the hook. I'm not like Kieran. I'm not totally convinced about his technique, particularly in India. If I'm brutally honest about it, I think Crawley, Pope are better players technically than he is. Is he technically good enough to have a real career in Test cricket? Well, we'll find out. But England really like him. They've invested a lot in him. He's got really fit. If you look at it, he's lost 2 stone, I think, to the start of last season. So fair play to him. He's got really fit. They like him. What we don't know is what his attitude's like in training. He might be the best guy around. He's one of those guys you want in your team. And he just might be they just pinning loads of hope on him. They really like him. They want him in there. He's going to be in India. There's no question about it. And fair play to him in that second innings. He was under serious pressure and had sort of an easy ride, but top innings. Can't knock it.
Yeah, I agree. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of the things that are happening in that game. But great Dick Weller behind the stumps. Actually asked Dom Sibley, are you going to go to India? Are you going to be opening in India? And Sibley turned around and said, well, I haven't had a very good series, so probably not, which I thought was absolutely brilliant. There's been so much entertainment behind those stubs. Dickwell is good value, I think. So, it's an interesting one, the openers, isn't it? I think Burns does come back into that equation, left-hand, right-hand combination. But do you stick with Sibley or do you stick with Crawley? Crawley should be further down the order, I think, possibly. Any views on that, guys?
Yeah, Crawley's not an opener. Crawley did his wonders in South Africa, batting a little bit lower down. Rory Burns has to come back. I think you stick with Dom Sibley for now, actually. And the reason I'm saying that, and this is why I was shaking my head when you mentioned Moeen Ali, Meg, is I'm going to contradict myself very
slightly. You're going to get agents on Moeen Ali now, aren't you?
Sorry?
You're going to say he's too old.
Yeah, I'm going to contradict myself a little bit. Not that he's too old. No, I'm not going to say that he's too old, but he took a decision for whatever reason that he didn't want to play Test cricket for about a year and a half. Now that was mainly because he was out of form terribly, and he wasn't doing very well. There was maybe some issues there, underlying issues. Who knows? But he took that decision. Now the reason that's a contradiction is because obviously I'm saying Gordon Anderson play because they haven't done that. They want to play. They really want it. My question with Moeen Ali is, has he got the desire? I'm not so sure he has. And I think that with that sort of person, that player, you need to move on and you need to back the youngsters and start developing a fresh, a new golden era, really, with a couple of senior heads in there, which is Anderson and Broad are the senior heads. Develop a golden era around some of these youngsters and don't make knee-jerk reactions and get rid of players, which I'm very guilty of moaning like a trooper all the time. Don't make knee-jerk reactions on the basis of a couple of bad innings. Dom Sibley's innings in that second dig was brilliant. I mean, okay, the field settings weren't great, but the pressure he was on, he knew that he was playing for his career in that innings, because I don't think he would have. Well, he wouldn't have.
Actually, Doggy was, sorry to butt in, he wasn't playing for his career. What was really strange about the squad we picked for India is that we picked it and announced it 2 days before this last test, and Johnny Bairstow wasn't in it. Now, Johnny Bairstow could have got 250s in this game and wouldn't have go into India. And the trick the England selectors have missed, in my opinion, is why haven't they told us why Bairstow's not going? Why have they not? I want to know why Josh Butler's coming home after the first test. Tell us. We'll understand, but it's up in the air. It's all ambiguous at me. You don't quite know what's going on. And
they're coming home. They're coming home because of bubble life in cricket, and that's fine. I understand.
Why don't they tell us that? They haven't told us it, have they? Tell us that.
Well, that's what's been said. But then you have the other issue. They're coming home because of bubble life, and then Josh Butler is going to be home for a few weeks, and then he's back to India for the IPL and back into a bubble again. So I'm not sure that's
exactly. So I've no sympathy for him whatsoever, in my opinion. If you're coming back to rest up for the IPL, I'd get rid. He'd be gone, mate. So I was picking it. No, I wouldn't entertain it.
I'll put you in touch with James Taylor.
Well, no, England is getting back to what Dick Weller was saying, was chirping away to Bairstow. He was into him about his IPL contract and the money he'd made and all this, that, and the other. And you're not playing for England because you're making money in the IPL. And there's some sort of merit. There's a little bit in there, I think, but. You're right, Kieran. There is a bubble situation, but tell us, inform everybody what's going on, and we'd all understand and move on, trot on.
On the plus side and the positive side, and Wes has just pointed this out as well, and I do agree with this. Wes has disagreed with a lot of stuff that I've said today, which is unusual because he normally agrees with everything I say. No, he doesn't. He's just said this is a really good point. It's going to give Ben Folkes an opportunity, isn't it? And Ben Folkes is somebody that everybody that knows and loves cricket says should have had a chance, and actually he did really well in Sri Lanka last time, and Ben Folkes is going to get at least potentially 3 test matches, possibly all 4.
It's a streamline, Kieran, that is, because that's brought me on to Butler's form in this series, but also his batting form in this particular test match was back to his best. I think he played some decent shots and looked total class, actually, from what I saw. Views on Butler and the folks. What your thoughts, Meg, as being our keeping expert?
I hold my hand up. Didn't remotely think 2 years ago he was a Test wicket keeper. Not in a million years. Not even convinced he was a Test batsman 2 years ago, if I'm brutally honest about it. Happy to say I'm wrong on both counts. I thought he kept wicket absolutely superbly. Trying to think of a chance he missed. I can't really think of anything. And he batted really well. He's improved out of sight, and fair play to the guy. He don't forget, if you look at his run of scores in the last 7 innings in Test cricket, 30, 70, 90, 100, 7 big scores. Before that, he hadn't got a run for 12, and he was 1 bad innings away from going out of the side. And there was a guy under pressure, and he's really stood up, been counted. Hacked off to him.
And then he's heading home. And
I've definitely got you out there, Megas. I think going back to the Moeen Ali situation, of course, he decided himself, didn't he, not to be selected. Again, I think they're almost keeping him in the mix for a period. I think I'm not sure they will go back to playing, but I'll stand corrected if they do in India and they go with 3 spinners, because they might do. You just never know. For me, I think he's probably just there as a bit of an ornament. I think personally.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is with Moeen Ali, he's probably still, one of the best spinners in England, and he probably would be good enough to play. But it's just desire. I don't think he's got desire anymore, and it's as simple as that. And when you make a decision not to play for your country when you're asked to, that to me shows a lack of desire. And I don't know, Megan would normally agree with something like that. I don't think you should, make that decision yourself. I think it's quite arrogant, actually, to sort of think you can pick and choose your games. And that's
I completely agree. You know my views on that, Kieran. You don't make a decision to play. You don't retire from the country. The country retires you, mate. I believe David Beckham's never retired from international football. Still waiting to be picked today, and that is absolutely the way it should be. You don't ever retire from that type of cricket. They tap you on the shoulder and say, "Sorry, son, your legs are gone or your eyes are gone off your trot." That's fine, but you're right. At him at his age to have done that, not great. But he's another good team man. I believe he's a brilliant guy in the changing rooms. He's a life and soul. He's a great guy to have around, and he will play some cricket in India. Are we playing 4 tests in India?
Yeah.
So he will play 1, 2 maybe. For me, he will figure. Otherwise, he'd be on the plane home with Bairstow and some of the others. They wouldn't be wasting their time with him. We'll see.
He'll definitely play in the one-dayers and the T20s, won't he? For sure, I would guess. Ian, any views on that?
Because someone mentioned it twice now about Crawley being a good guy to have around the team and Ali as well. How many of those guys can you have in a squad? How many guys can you have in a squad that are the good guys to have in the squad?
Well, you want about 15, Ian, don't you?
Exactly. Yeah, you would like to. Yeah, but how many can you carry is the option, I think, isn't it? That's
a good point.
Because I think Butler falls, not now, he's got it back again, but Butler sort of fell into that class as well, I think, didn't he, with his run of bad scores, as you said, and some rather dodgy wicket keeping, but they kept going with him. He's come good, but he's vice captain as well, isn't he? So it's they obviously see something in the guy from that respect.
Yeah.
So who's the actual backup? So Butler goes home after the first test. Bairstow's at home. Folkes breaks a finger in the first test. Who's keeping wicket in the second test?
Is it Pope?
Probably.
Would it be?
I don't know. Wicket, hasn't he? But if he's got a dodgy shoulder anyway, hasn't he? So it's
Is Bairstow coming back out?
No.
I don't know. No, exactly. We don't know, dude. That's just it. It's all a bit. We're not sure, are we?
Obviously, we've got an umpiring guru with us, so we need to ask the question of you, Ian. What do you think of the umpiring in this series? Les Addison is actually says here, home umpires will affect the Indian series? ? What's your thoughts on the umpiring in this particular series?
I think it's been pretty reasonable. There's been 1 or 2 overturned decisions, but you're going to get that no matter what. I think they've been okay. They're under immense pressure being home umpires, and I think sometimes it can go the other way. You tend to, if you want to be too unbiased, shall we say, and maybe go the other way, give decisions against your own team. But I think they've got it about right. They did pretty well. I mean, Damascene has been a good umpire for a while. Maybe But he was one umpire of the year a couple of times, hasn't he? I think he's maybe gone off a little bit since then, and the other guys are all fairly new. It's going to be interesting how it goes with this non-neutral umpire. So to see today they've announced Richard Illingworth's going to Bangladesh because they've got nobody. So they can get round it if they want to. But no, I think the umpires have done pretty well in that series.
I did like Dharma saying he was actually calming things down. There was a big appeal.
Exactly,
I think the Butler edge onto the boot, wasn't it? And he was calming people down. Let's go upstairs. I'll talk to my other umpire first. And and I thought he handled that situation very well. Well,
pretty much this got this sort of it's the appeal, the way the Sarangans were appealing. It's not one appeal. It sort of goes on for about 5 minutes, doesn't it? I mean, so just calm down, guys. We'll have a look at it. Which they handle it well, as you say. That's fine. That's good.
I think somebody's made the point here about the bias. You can't really do the bias, can you? Because it would just be, referred. And they've got 3 referrals, haven't they now? So
yeah, absolutely. That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Yeah.
You think back
not only have they got 3 referrals, but obviously if it's an umpire's call, they retain it as well. So they could have unlimited referrals, couldn't they? In theory. So
I think the umpiring's been excellent, and as Darryl said, they've got the referrals. If you think back to the first 2 tests of the West Indies series, with the greatest respect, Kettleborough and Illingworth were absolutely shocking. They gave so many decisions that got overturned. It wasn't even true. They were awful, and they weren't homers. They were just awful. And these 2 guys, I think, have been terrific. And one experienced one, and one not so good. And Illingworth and particularly Kettleborough are one of the best around, aren't they, at the moment? I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
But,
And on the other side of the coin, Megas, just to show that we're not anti-umpires, on the other side of the coin, Michael Goff was outstanding. So
yeah, exactly. Yes, he was, and he was the 3rd umpire in the first 2 of the tests, wasn't he? And you're right, he was terrific. And but
because we don't like umpiring,
we love them.
I'm going to ask you a direct question here, Ian. You'll love this. DRS.
Yeah.
Now, come on. Have you changed your umpiring decisions since DRS has become fashionable? Have you changed your umpiring?
Hand on heart, I don't think I have. No.
Interesting.
I don't think so. I mean, everybody talks about this. Everybody, spinners can now get on the front foot. Get people out and they're playing on the front foot, which they couldn't before. But I don't. It's been around for most of my umpiring career, I must admit. So but no, I don't think so. The thing that happened with DRS is it's got out of what it was brought in for, and that's the problem with it. It was brought in to get rid of howlers, and it's now being used as a sort of tactical ploy sometimes, isn't it? Really, I think.
It is. When now they've got 3 reviews, and there was one that Root used yesterday. Look, I don't think it's out, but hey, let's give it a go. Anyway. The camera hasn't quite picked it up, and whatever. Ian, are you finding in home counties cricket that people are appealing more? Going to Darryl's theme of the DRS, are players watching it and thinking, "Hang on, that's out now. I'm trying it." Are you finding they're trying it on more now, or has that not changed in your view?
I don't think that's changed much. I don't think that's changed. I really don't. I think everybody's, you get the half an appeal and cut off, and it's just, no, it's not, isn't it? That's fairly written. That's always happened. They always will do. And people are, in general, they know what they've seen, and very few people try it on.
Ian,
don't mean to say we don't get everything. We get things wrong. We don't get things wrong. We do. Everybody does. That's it.
Ian, I remember something that Dave Billingsley told me. I mean, obviously, I've only been umpiring for a few years, so I'm obviously not at a level that I'm particularly good yet. But something that Dave Billingsley told me on day 1 of the course, actually, in terms of LBW decisions, he said, particularly at this level, if you get somebody to bowl a set of 3 stumps, how many times do they hit them? And it's very, very few times. And that's always going through my mind whenever there's an LBW decision, because you don't see them hit very often. You only have to look at bowl outs to see that. They finish 1-0 or 2-0. So I think at this level, umpires need to sort of, well, I do certainly. They probably don't when Darryl's batting, because he gets out LBW an awful lot. But I think at this level, umpires need to sort of realise that players aren't necessarily skillful enough to hit the stumps as often as perhaps they think they are.
Yeah.
You're not wrong there, Dog.
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly the same with bowl outs. I mean, I've done a few bowl outs in my time, and you're exactly right. It's very rarely just more than one person hit the stumps. I think the trick is ball full bungers, actually. That's what usually works.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, Kieran, it's difficult when you kick it off the middle. You're probably out, basically.
What's the funniest thing about you, though, Daryl, is every week the umpire knows how you were out the week before, and they've obviously got a little black book, and they know that you're out LBW most weeks. So. Adam Cook is my victim. Sadly, I confess. Adam Cook at Cumnor has been on the wrong end. I think of possibly one or two. I'm willing to confess one or two that he didn't agree with, and maybe we can get it wrong at times. We're not infallible, are we, Ian?
Not by any means. Not by any means.
It's really interesting. I think it has changed a lot, because I used to get away with an awful lot in minor counties cricket. I used to kick the ball everywhere and never get out. LBW, the stats. But it's really interesting that's changed in the last 10 years. You know, my dismissal is a lot more. So it just proves how the game's changed and how regulations have made a difference to certain people's games.
Could it be your eyesight's getting worse? You can't.
It could be that.
Go there, but I'm older than him, so I'd better not.
I'm sort of going to come on to a little bit of sledging, because obviously we've got a couple of umpires with us here.
And a couple of sledgers as well.
Yeah,
not a couple of sledgers. Well, one anyway.
Yeah, possibly. But your thoughts? Has that got worse, Ian? Do you think because of we're seeing these stump mics and we're hearing a lot of things a little bit more on international cricket and first class cricket? Do you think that's had an impact on the words that are said during a local cricket match?
Not, to be honest, no, I don't think so. You get a little bit more chirping maybe, but it's usually trying to be funny. Doesn't always succeed, but they try to. And it very rarely gets nasty. Yes, there are times it happens. You've got to do something about it. But again, I think it comes down to how the umpire is running that game from the start. And if there's no question of jumping in straight away, sort of nipping it in the bud, sort of thing. Not going to get a buzzer for that one, but no, it's how you handle it and how you're perceived by the players as well. If they know they're not going to get away with it, they tend not to do it. If they can walk all over you, they will do. And it's just setting your stall out early doors and just be yourself. And if you don't like it, tell them.
No, I don't disagree with that. I think it's the umpires that you don't notice in a game that are probably the better umpires, to be fair. Kieran, your views on that?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't had, in my limited experience, I haven't had many issues at all, to be honest with that. There's been the odd occasion where we might have had to step in where something goes a little bit OTT, but I actually quite like, and I'm sure Megas will vouch for this, I quite like the friendly banter and the silly comments. Because you hear that all the time. And some of the stuff, as you mentioned at the start of this programme, some of the stuff that's been going on in Sri Lanka has been hilarious. I mean, the thing with Joe Root did a bit of a Tino Best on Chandimal. I think Chandimal was sort of playing with a straight bat, and Joe Root just said, with a smile on his face, "I'll stop playing a straight bat, Chandy, come on, try and swing across the line, give your wicket away." And the very next ball, that's exactly what he did. It was a Flintoff Tino Best moment. And it's just funny. And, I don't have an issue with that. I have an issue where it sort of gets personal. I'm sure Ian would agree if it gets personal. And I know that you've experienced that before, Daryl. We don't need to go into details. If it gets personal, then I think that's when an umpire needs to step in. I did mention last week, didn't I? I'm a little bit more downcast on Tim Payne, not because of most of what he said. It's just when when there's any sort of bad language, I think that's where it sort of needs to stop. But it was one piece of bad language in the heat of battle, and actually, was it that bad? So Megas was going to throw everything down there, and I was actually going to sort of back Tim Payne up here.
You are absolutely.
And I was going to say that most of what was going on there between Tim Payne and everybody else, it was funny, it was banter, it was good spirited, and I don't have an issue with that. Obviously, we had the situation last time with Tim Payne and Rishabh Pant, and it ended up, I think there was a bit of sledging going on, and Rishabh Pant ended up babysitting his kids while Tim Payne went out for dinner with his wife during the last series. So there's a lot of really good spirit. I just think that umpires need to step in when it gets really personal or if it gets a bit OTT. But I don't know if you agree, Ian, but we've got enough to think about with what's going on the field of play, laws of cricket, and getting the decisions right. And if you jumped in on everything that was said, we wouldn't get a game on, would we?
Yeah, exactly. That's right. If it's personal, if it's abusive, and if it's persistent as well, if it just goes on and on and on. I mean, it's a question of the way I look at it is if I'm getting brassed off with it, then, it's my game. They say the game's for the players, yeah, but I'm out there all Saturday as well, and I want to enjoy myself. And if it's just yak all the time, well, come on, guys, shut up.
Yeah. And the funniest thing I've ever seen, Ian, was Daryl having an argument with his cap standing at slip. So, he was getting into a bit of a bad mood. I think his team weren't playing very well. They were chasing $1 million, and I think a catch went down or some bit of midfield, and Daryl just kicked his cap in anger. Looked around at his teammates. They were all completely ignored him, and he had to indignantly go and pick it up and put it back on his head. And I just thought that was the funniest thing I've ever seen. So there you go. Sorry, Daryl.
If you saw the Sky, the end of Sky, so Mike Atherton, they were talking about it, and Atherton said that what happened with Payne and didn't even not worried about it. He said it's not even didn't register for me as well. Didn't even register. Going back to what Ian said earlier about local cricket, and he didn't think there's any more sledging than there ever was. So somebody who's played in the Cherwell League since 1981, that's 40 years now. I've been through a long period. I know I'm in a lower grade now to what I played most of my career, but the chat on the field now is so much less than it ever was. It really is. I mean, I actually long for a game where there is a bit of niggle in it. It is jolly hockey sticks in Cherwell League Division 3, believe me. 20 years ago, it was 25 years ago, like the Wild West, believe me, because I was probably Doc Holliday, so I know it was not the Wild West. But no, really, it's in my opinion and my experience, it's a lot less inane silly chat and drivel than ever. Actually, probably not. There's still plenty of inane drivel, but abuse is less, without any shadow of a doubt. Daryl, were you playing the same league as me?
Yeah,
you did do.
We've gone up a league, but I didn't want to mention that.
I knew you'd get that. Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, I'll buzz the south beggars. Sorry,
we went down a league.
What I was going to say was literally a couple of things. I thought during last season, because of COVID and everything else, it was played in a really, really good spirit. Probably the best spirit I've seen.
Yeah, you almost can't count it, but yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, I thought it was brilliant. What I liked, I think, was seeing England in the I don't know if it was the away team in the England dressing room or vice versa, but having a drink with each other after a game and talking about cricket and stuff. That was really, really good to see on social media. The top team conversing with each other. That's something I feel is going out the game a little bit in local cricket. I mean, me and you, Megas, we would certainly stay for a pint or two. But is it a dying art?
Yeah, definitely. Many reasons. Partly the drink driving. Yeah. That's an issue. Actually, strangely, what could help it is the new. If leagues are more regional this year, more local derbies, which is one good thing maybe about the leagues changing. We've lost the local derbies. They're now back in on the calendar to a degree, I would think. That might mean more interaction with players after games. Let's hope so, anyway, because that's just as good a bit as playing for 8 hours as drinking for 3 afterwards.
Part of the game, isn't it? That is. I mean, Oxfordshire over 50s do tend to outstay their welcome, actually, in most of the places we visit, which is brilliant. So it's great fun.
I just wanted to just very quickly going back to last summer, Daryl. One of the best things I saw on a cricket field internationally last summer, and you wouldn't have seen this back in the 80s, I don't think, at international level. Crawley getting that 260 odd massive double century. Every Pakistan player to a man followed him and shook his hand, and there's no harm in that. You can be competitive and super competitive and want to win and have that aspiration, but recognise when somebody's done something fantastic. And actually, I see that quite a lot in the Chowell League as well. I see oppositions very often applauding hundreds, and I think that's really refreshing to see, and I hope that continues. I'm sure it will. There's nothing wrong with that, Megas, is there? Applauding.
That's always happened. Kieran, that's always happened. I've played in a club side. Darryl knows, played against us, and 25 years ago, we pushed it way too close to the limit a lot of the time. But we always, and I mean always, we were always in the bar. We always would applaud a good innings and tap a guy on the shoulder. Always. And yeah, you'd have a load during the game, but for me, I actually don't really care to some sort of degree what goes on the field. Obviously, there are parameters, of course there are, but so long as you shake hands, get in the bar, have 2 or 3 beers, talk about the game. I've been muted, haven't I?
No.
That's all about, and hopefully,
just assumed you would be there.
No. I just hope we can get back to that this year with the situation where, Christ, nobody's been out for a bloody year. Let's get in what an opportunity cricket clubs have got this season to get people into their clubs, around their grounds, just socialising again. Forget the cricket, just socialising at a cricket ground. It's a great opportunity for all of us. It really is.
I saw a really good article, Daryl, in Wisden this week, and it was one of the best articles I read. I'll have to dig it out and perhaps share it on our channel. It was, I think it was written by George Dobell, and it was basically saying that if COVID permits and we can get back out there this year, this is the year when local recreational grassroots cricket can start rebuilding, because people have missed it so much and realise what they missed. And actually, all the sort of gloom and doom about clubs folding and cricket sort of disappearing from our village greens and our local towns and villages. Actually, let's embrace what happened last year and realise what we missed last year. And I think a lot of people, I mean, that's why bloody hell, I'm crap at cricket, but I've decided I want to play again because I really, really missed it. And that's fine. You can buzz me all you like. That's a serious point. So
well said, Todd. Good. Yeah, agree with you.
Yeah, good stuff. I'm still freezing you out. I was going to say, I mean, every game of cricket I've played in and the opposition players scored 100, I've always made it my reason. I will go over and shake their hand. I've always done it. It doesn't matter where I'm fielding. I will always do that when somebody scores 100 because I think it's an achievement and they deserve that recollection. You don't see that a lot, but yeah, it's something I've always done and I would instill on everybody. It's sportsmanship. Go over and tap the guy on the back and say, "Well played." Did that when Latif scored a double century against us. I actually, that's the first time I've hugged somebody on the opposition after a game. I thought it was a super innings, and that's the sort of thing that should happen, in my opinion. Go on, Kieran. And we're nearly an hour. We've nearly done an hour. A couple of things I want to talk about.
I just wanted to, for those watching now or those watching back, I've located that article. It was actually The Cricketer, not Wisden. It's an article by James Coyne. If you go to thecricketer.com and have a look at it, it's one of the best articles I've ever read. I'm just going to read the first paragraph and then hopefully that will get people reading it because I think it's brilliant. There's James Coyne and he says, "Whisper it quietly, but in the depths of January, the grassroots game could well play a serious role in restoring the morale of British people. I'm not usually one to hyperbole, but given there's a chance that cricket could be played this summer, there's a massive opportunity to restore the mental health of the British population and at the same time bring cricket back to the fields of England as we knew of old." And I think that just sums it all up. And I think that it's a really good article.
The bars, get people in the bars. But yeah, you're right, Dog. You're absolutely right. We've almost got a social responsibility. That sounds awfully pompous, doesn't it? But there is, isn't there, to cricket clubs? Opportunity, a massive opportunity this year. There really is. And
it's a reset button, isn't it? It's a reset button, in my view.
Yeah, I think you're right, guys. Look, we've just gone past the hour, and I did really want to keep us at an hour, but there's a couple of things I want to share with you, and I want you to get your thinking caps onto some of the stats. So we've already alluded to the fact 10 wickets in the first innings to seam, 10 wickets in the second innings to spin. But some people were taking the mickey out of these stats on social media. One said it's the first time somebody 6'6" tall scored 13 in the first innings, Gore. And also it's the first time a 23-year-old spinner has taken 4 wickets in a test. So they were just taking the mickey a little bit out of some of the stats that were coming out. But there's the 5 weirdest stats I found out, and I'm not going to go through all of them, but 2 or 3. Nasser Hussain apparently had a knack, just like Darrell Woods at Oxford Downs, of losing the toss. And he lost the toss for a consecutive 12 months. I think it was 14 internationals. And yeah, I've nearly gone through a whole season, 18 games without winning a toss. So I know what that's like. And apparently, this is just rubbish stats, isn't it? 1 in 16,384th chance of that actually happening. Mohammed Rafiq of Bangladesh actually bowled 10.2 overs in a 50-over game against Hong Kong.
The Dave Clark mathematics school, I think.
Absolutely, and they still won. It was the first game they'd won in the Asian Cup, strangely enough. Now, here's a question for you. This is going to test your grey matter. One person has carried their bat in both innings of a match. Do you know who it was? Any clues?
Michael Atherton, I think.
Michael Atherton, not correct.
No.
It was a chap called Henry Jupp. And he did it once in 1866 and then followed in 1874.
I saw his second in it.
That's brilliant, isn't it? Any rubbish stats that you got for us? Anything you've seen or heard that could
Haven't got any rubbish ones.
Go on.
I genuinely haven't got any. I've got nothing to hand. No rubbish ones.
How about so I got one. Marvin Atapatu, who was one of Sri Lanka's best ever batsmen in the end. His average after 3 Test matches was 0.67 because he had duck, 1.
Yes,
I think
he did. Yeah.
But they stuck with him, as we said earlier on. They stuck with him, and he became a very good player. So there's a little bit of a lesson to be learned there, I think.
Brilliant. The other thing I wanted to discuss, and there was a couple of things, but I think I'm just going to go on to Paul Sterling, Irish opener, 4 centuries in the last 6 games. Now, he's only gone at a run a ball pretty much in all of those innings. Now, when we had Catherine Brunt and Nat Siver on, she mentioned, I said, "Oh, you got a pretty good run rate of, run a ball," and she said, "No, I want to be more than that. I think it's got to be higher in one-day cricket." So my question to you: phenomenal achievement, but has he been losing these games for Ireland, being so slow?
Good question. The matches are in Abu Dhabi, I believe. Am I right? Pitch is slow, you would imagine. Ireland not done great in the games. Onus on him to bat through. Difficult, isn't it? Their batting's not that strong. If he gets out for 10 on each of those occasions, they get hammered out of sight, don't they? Maybe. I don't know. Difficult one. No, in my opinion. I think he's done well.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I think it's a phenomenal record. Yeah. Thoughts, Ian, Kieran?
Well, you always how you set up your innings, isn't it? Really, what he's been told to do. Do you need someone to bat through and someone bat around you? Is it the others that have failed, not him?
Yeah. I don't think
he's got a shift gear. Yeah, exactly.
Definitely can't. Don't think you can blame on one person. I've got one final little stat just because I'm a bit of a statter. I heard this the other day, actually. They were talking about Virat Kohli and his average, his batting average against all the nations of the world in one-day internationals, having played more than 10 times against certain sides. Virat Kohli averages more than 40 against every international side except one, and he only averages 12 against this side. And this is sides that he's played against 10 times or more. Which side does he only average 12 against? There you go. Don't Google it.
Bangladesh.
I'm going to go Bangladesh, actually. Yeah.
It's the Netherlands, apparently.
Oh.
Yeah, he's played against them 10 times. The average is 12. So there you go.
Good stuff, Kieran. Like
Very
it.
good.
Well, guys, look, we've gone past the hour. I think it's a good time to wrap it up. Thank you, as ever, Kieran, for joining me as a co-host. Megas and Ian, thanks for joining us tonight and imparting your wisdom on us, which has been superb. Anything you want to finish on? Anything you'd like to say, guys? I know Kieran's. I'm going to hold Kieran back. Ian, would you like to say anything before?
Not really. Just hope for everybody's sake we do get back on the field this year in some form or other. Whether it'll be a full-blown game or whether we'll still be wiping balls every 6 overs, who knows? But we shall see.
Yeah, I'd forgotten about that, actually. Yeah, no, I had forgotten about that. Megas, what's your any?
Just looking forward to the India series. I think we need to beat them 4-0 to qualify for the World Test Championship final. Unlikely, but while we can. So yeah, bring that on in. I think a week Friday, isn't it? The first test. So bring that on.
It's going to be exciting, actually, isn't it? To see how we do. We will be back live after, or possibly just before and just after the first test match on the Pun-Dits panel. But Kieran, go on.
I have nothing more to say about today's Pun-Dits panel, but I do have to say, for those that are watching on here and those that are subscribing, if you'd liked it, please subscribe. And more importantly, and we've been very remiss today, but we need to say this, the Masked Cricketer returns for Series 3 next Thursday, which is the 4th of February. We have another very, very special guest, which we think will be really engaging. We think it will be something a little bit different again. And we have a series of 9 scheduled for this series between now and the 1st of April Fool's Day, ironically. What costumes Darryl going to wear? I'm sure he'll be dressed up to the nines. But we've got 9 really good episodes. We'll be back for that in aid of the Lord's Taverners. We haven't mentioned it on this show, but it's the Masked Cricketer in aid of the Lord's Taverners next Thursday, 7 o'clock. And please join us for that. And please subscribe. And that will also be on our Facebook channel as well as on YouTube. And Darryl, I think that's it from me. And let's hope that that Leslie wants to go and watch Arsenal. So I think on that note, we'll
How did Leeds get on? Anybody?
Probably lost. I know Oxford are losing 2-1 at half time after going 1-0 up. There you go. You heard it here first. On the Pun-Dits panel, the guys that put pun into pundit. We'll see you again soon. Please keep safe. Keep doing what you need to do in lockdown. We'll be back soon with some promos and obviously the Masked Cricketer. Your chance in the new series to hashtag Ask the Mask. Got it in. Keep getting these catchphrases in. So for now, guys, thank you very much. Thanks everybody for watching as well. Keep safe and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Even Peel.